I made a discovery at the coffee shop today while doing some writing. And the discovery was textural, to do with the texture of consciousness. It was a somatic remembrance within my being, which I'm going to here weave into words. Something of a textual analysis. I was at the coffee shop and I was doing some writing, getting somatic with it, getting felt, feeling the depths of my heart and allowing my heart to speak to me about what it wants to say. And in this process of somatic tracing, I kind of dug my way from this lingering texture of like constriction, self-negation, this like almost watery or anti-watery feeling of city energy and synthetic energy that tries to like layer itself over my eyes, over my heart, over my body, so that the somatic quality of my experience feels a little bit drowned out and numbed out by whatever synthetic energies are dancing through the air of the concrete jungle. Maybe this will make sense to some of you, maybe less to others. But it truly feels, it's not water, because water is pure and emotional and purifying and deep and real and raw and living. But like this almost liquid, energetic feeling of being kind of like targeted by energies that want to suppress consciousness. Now, in the external realm, we can point to certain technologies, to certain systems, to certain behaviors that are designed for this. And I could point to them here in the city. But there's also the internal aspect where I've been exploring the dialogical incantations that I have been weaving for the past 7 or so years. In my last video, I spoke of the power of the word to speak reality into being, and then it will become true by the nature of you speaking it. And God breathed the world into being, and God spoke the world into being, for God was the Word and still is the Word. And the Word became breath. And so when the logos, the word of your mind, weaves its way into your heart, then your heart becomes that in your breath, in its exhalations, as reality. And then holds up a mirror of what you speak to yourself. So that, in some sense, the externalities, the textural tones of which I'm speaking, of feeling like this consciousness suppression, pressing upon my somatic body, my multi-dimensional perceptive body, that is an external emanation, while also noticing, noting, witnessing, bringing to awareness the textual layers, the texts, the scripts which I have written and spoken internally over my own heart. Things like the words, my heart can't feel. I've lost access to the divine. I've lost my connection to my heart. These are things that I would say, rooted in wounds and trauma, that I've repeated to myself over the years. And so feeling these layers somatically within me. So just once more iterating the as within, so without quality of this, that there's the layer of me speaking these things to myself, and then there's also the layer of like, it's very real that in reality there are forces that are doing this, that are aiming certain energies at consciousness for the sake of suppression, for the sake of feeding. And I spoke of textures, I spoke of textuality. Now I'm going to speak of the context of living with this emotionally codependent dog near downtown San Diego, where these energies of suppression are being very like deeply expressed to me. Like they're very suffocating right now. I'm not sleeping well because every morning I get woken up by this dog at 6 a.m. And the bed in which I'm sleeping, I feel like contains the shadows of the dog's mama, this human being who I think is very enmeshed in the system. So, I have felt, especially today, this layer of consciousness suppression. And here's the discovery that I made. That standing in your purpose, standing in the light of your heart, shining, in my case, in the activity of writing and of truly getting into the flow and the flow state of writing, this has the power to dissolve these textural tones of consciousness suppression. And this dissolves the suppression by way of expansion. Like the light of the sun, if you tried to like envelop it with a cage of iron, it would just melt the iron. If you tried to envelop the sun with stratospheric aerosol injections, look that up if you don't know what that is, it would just melt them. And as human beings, we are microcosmic instantiations of the luminaries within the sky, within the heavens. So that I am a sun. I am the light of the sun of my soul. And the sun of my soul has the capacity to dissolve the particular injections in the stratosphere, or the particular consciousness manipulation technologies which may be lingering in the air or in the concrete or wherever it may be. Or any luminary element of me may have the power to dissolve certain incantations or logos imbued breaths which I have woven into the luminary field of my microcosm, into the being that I am, the self-negation that I have spoken, the self-limitation, the self-doubt, the fear-induced stories of paranoia, which I have woven into my heart and made my reality. I have the power to dissolve these things when I stand in my soulful purpose, which God has gifted me, that I may gift the world. God has blessed me that I may be a blessing, and may all my blessings dissolve all that is a curse and all that is accursed. We lift the curses of this reality by becoming blessings, by becoming blessedness itself. Now, I experienced this while writing. Not even, it might have been what I was writing about in the moment, but I was just writing what was coming. And just relatively suddenly, in the act of writing itself, it's like the dissolution and disillusion happened of its own accord, very seamlessly, like a dissolving of illusions, as within, so without. So that my external reality no longer was contained by the overlay of somatic, textural suppression, negation, kind of liquid, weird demiurgic energy. Maybe, I hope you're still with me. Another thing that I have just realized right before recording this video, as I'm walking to the spot where I'm about to do it, that there is something Saturnian about these energies, and there's something very Saturnian about cities, and about this like impose limitations and control. And if you look at the symbology of so much of our world, you'll see that there is cultish behavior and Saturnian worship going on. Perhaps that's also a story that I and or humanity has woven from a place of woundedness. But this imbalance of mental energy that holds the feminine in very little reverence, that builds skyscrapers that have this very phallic, concrete, straight, rigid, this thing, ugliness to it. This is an ugly building. And it's very rigid and cubic. Saturn is a black cube. So, the Saturnian elements, which in our reality are hell-bent on confining, containing, creating rigid structures, understanding, like looking at this vast ocean, and the scientific materialists will try to calculate and predict every movement of the womb and the chaos. They're trying to come up with the equations that can predict unpredictability. This is Saturnian. So I hope, I don't know, you guys probably already know this, but for the people who don't know, and I'm speaking of this like anti-watery, liquid-like imposition upon my consciousness that I feel somatically within my body, particularly today, and in the context of living with this emotionally codependent dog who is imprisoned by the mechanizations of his animality, disconnected from his own heart, and thus seeking outside of himself the emotional needs that he has within, but not knowing how to look within his own heart and to just simply feel. And living in cities and living over an airport, and the airplanes fly directly above my apartment and come blast my apartment with these extremely loud, sonorous waves of this mechanistic energy, symptomatic of the Saturnian grid. So I've rambled on. Will I get to the point? Maybe. Maybe I will. The point is, every 29 and a half or so years, every human being who is an embodiment of the luminaries in the sky, microcosmically embodied, Saturn makes its return. Every year, when you grow a year on your birthday, the sun makes its return. So I'm a Scorpio. The sun does its procession through the zodiacs and makes its way back to Saturn, or to Scorpio, every year on my birthday. Every 29 years, Saturn does its thing and comes back. I have Saturn in Pisces, and I'm 29 years old. And I'm currently, for the next about 2 or 3 years of my life, in my Saturn return. So I am confronting the way in which my Piscean, dreamy, watery, mystical depths, watery, ocean, Pisces, the two fish of the oscillations that constitute the pendulum of being, the yin and yang, the paradoxes of existence, of the emotional undercurrents that go to and fro, the inhalation and exhalation, and the symbiotic balance and harmony between these things. My Saturn comes to try and contain and constrict and like draw boundaries around my Piscean depths, and I do believe this is in my second house, which is related to material possessions, finances. And right now I'm looking at the mirror of reality that's telling me, yo dude, like you are struggling when it comes to housing and to your material needs and to your finances. You are facing these things. So I'm very much like somatically, scripturally, realistically, metaphysically confronting these Saturnian suppressions of my waters. And I do believe they are in certain relational alignment with other luminaries and luminary placements within my zodiac. I couldn't bring them up on the fly, but it's all interconnected. It is all interconnected. The luminaries that exist microcosmically, quite literally within your body. You have a sun, you have a Mars, you have a Saturn, you have a moon, and these constitute particular layers and elements of your being, and they are elemental at that. And I'm feeling and witnessing these things within me, and I know they are also in the sky, and they are self-same. They are energetically enmeshed and interwoven, so that as the sky undergoes its changes and its currents designed by God, by the hand of God, gently guided by the hand of God through breath, all luminous breath, that these undergo particular reflective emanations within my body, within the reality generation field of my body. So that it's extremely wild, very wild, and confronting, and like mind-shattering in a sense, to witness with mental awareness as well as heart awareness, emotional awareness, somatic awareness of the whole body, the processes of the sky. Saturn is currently in Pisces, in the sky, and I feel it inside of my body. I feel the Saturnian constrictions trying to confine my waters, and I am guided through reality of my own free will by the divine guidance of God's eternal will, which uses the stars to guide my free will into certain places where I will confront these external heavenly parts of myself internally by confronting them within the external reflections of the earthly. I hope that makes sense. Just rewind it back if not. It is absolutely wild to experience this in real time and to witness the unfurling of this remembrance that consciousness functions in this way in our reality. And that consciousness as it remembers itself has this ability to overcome evil, to overcome the suppressions, to when concrete tries to overlay itself in all of its energetic layers, not just concrete, but we're speaking in metaphor and metaphysic here. When it tries to overlay itself on consciousness, because the earth is made of consciousness, these material layers of these leaves and these flowers, they are not just material, they are animistic, they are metaphorical, they are metaphysical, they are the breath of God, they are luminary just as we are, they are the heavens embodied microcosmically in material form. And in a sense, my heart is the earth, so this is the luminary of the earth speaking. These constrictions, when concrete tries to pour itself over the earth in all of its forms, the flowers still bloom. You walk through the city and you can see the trees still blooming, or still growing, and the roots breaking through, and the flowers and the weeds, if we call them weeds, and the plants growing through the concrete. And it's only a matter of time before all of the concrete dissolves and dissipates, and even the plastic, and even the EMFs, and even all of the other layers of deceit and suppression and misunderstanding and ignorance and illusion. For true consciousness, rooted in absolute irrevocable connection and communion with God, to reclaim itself and to grow and to bloom in such a way that simply dissolves the boundaries of illusion, that simply dissolves the cages and the confines of illusion. And there is this reverential awe and beauty that has made itself known to me today in a way that is experiential. That one of the absolute simplicities which God has gifted us from his divine simplicity as a divine attribute, because God created us in his image, there is a divine simplicity in discovering your life's purpose. For me, it's writing, language, and to follow the pathways and the waters and the streaming luminary breaths of your bliss, of your passion, of your purpose, of your inner perfection, of your inner child, of your inner innocence, where reality itself becomes this artistic interplay, this artistic process of self-discovery and uncovering and digging through the layers of doubt and fear and trauma and evil and pain. And you dig and you dig and you dig and you turn it with your paintbrush, with your artistic ability to create, God-given, and you turn the very limitations of Saturn upon your Piscean waters, or whatever it may be in your own version of your own reality, microcosmic, and microcosmically instantiating the sky, breathed by God. You turn the limitations themselves into your own refinement and mastery and liberation and freedom. And in a sense, it is sensory and it is sensuous. You have to sense this. You have to feel it. You have to truly dive deep into your heart and feel this truth. In a sense, this is the pathway where the mind, which has very Saturnian elements of wanting to understand, comprehend why evil exists, why all this concrete exists, why these forces and powers and principalities are so hell-bent on hell itself and on suppression and on confinement and on any time that someone is free, it's like they have to fucking rush over and be like, no, that's not allowed. Stop that right now. Like, get the fuck out of here. Oh my God. And there's a helicopter up there somewhere that you can't even see because it's so small that the camera can't even capture it. So let it dissolve. This is my reality. This is what a day in the life of Carl is like. At least on the days when I truly make space and time to dive deep inward into my heart and reach and dig through the scorpionic mud and muck to retrieve my soul from the places where it has convinced itself lost. I hope you can hear. I just realized I was holding the camera pretty far. So, I am absolutely befuddled by the astrotheological language of the universe and of God revealing itself to me in all of these multi-layered instantiations. The heavenly luminaries, the earthly world, microcosmically embodying the heavenly layer here in my external reality, and then feeling it somatically, as within so without, inside of my being, inside of my body. Like literally feeling it today, just by going into my heart and writing and asking my heart, hey, can you speak to me? Can you tell me what you're feeling? Can you tell me how you feel about these mental scripts that I'm currently exploring? And also, like, all of this coming just from having a blank piece of paper and a pen and just starting to write. And when I started writing was about a critique of this discourse of these New Agers who say, I am you and you are me, and all is one. And I have some beef with that, which I won't get into right now. But I just followed the stream of the writing towards the expansion of my heart, of my soul, of my Piscean waters, and meshed with my Scorpionic waters and my Sagittarian fire and whatever other elemental convergences of being I have into a conversation with, not con as in conning, con as in with, conversing into verse, the universalization of my breath into art and song and self-expression, simply like a flower in bloom. And that's it. And from that, my joy and my soul and my luminosity dissolves the textural and metaphysical impressions of distortion and of deceit and all of these things that will try to suppress consciousness on a more universal level. And we simply dissolve these things in the statement that I am. I am. I am. That's it. I am.